I say, well, ho, chaps and chabbits, GameChap and Bertie here.
Yes.
Yes, Fidels, bringing you here our Super Mario Maker 2 character tier list. Now, what this means is the tier list for these characters with their abilities from the Mario series if you could play them in Super Mario Maker 2, either now or perhaps later in DLC.
Yes, indeed. Now, we know some of these are playable already, but they don't have the qualities or the abilities with them. But what we're saying here is if they did, if these characters were in, what sort of tiers would they be in terms of their effectiveness in Super Mario Maker 2 and actually playing the game?
Exactly, so different characters with different skills would be useful on different stages. So let's start straight in here at C tier on our tier list, and we're going to start from the bottom and go to the top, so worst to best characters. So firstly, we've got in C tier at the bottom, poor old Toad. Well, of course, in Super Mario Bros. 2 USA, where he first appeared, he had a rather fast run and was able to pluck vegetables quickly. But of course, vegetables only really appeared in Mario Bros. 2. They didn't really appear in any subsequent Mario games, so we can sort of discount the vegetable skill and just say yes, he's got a fast run in his favour, so perhaps he could outrun incoming obstacles, etc. and so forth. Could be good for speedrun courses, perhaps.
Yes, indeed. Now, he's not necessarily that well known for having a big jump, is he?
Well, exactly. I was going to say that. Yes, his big negative, the big downside of Toad is depending on the game, he has a lower jump than average, so that would probably be translated over into Mario Maker 2 as well. So he could, as I say, run fast, good for speedrun courses, but that low jump would really let him down because Mario Maker 2 is all about the jumps.
Yes, he'd be in big trouble unless he was somehow to run fast and then make the jump like that.
Well, yes, you'll see, because he could perhaps jump one block lower than other characters, certain blocks would be just out of reach for him. In some courses, he'd be unable to complete the course, old chap. He'd be finished, really.
Indeed.
So he's not very good, unfortunately, for that reason. So
it's tier C for Toad.
That's right, C tier for Toad at the bottom. Then moving up, also in C tier, this is at the top of C tier, we have our old friend Wario.
Right, yes, indeed. Wario, big, heavy character, strong, it's true, but what's strength worth in Super Mario Maker 2?
That's a good question. Now, I think, personally, you can't punch, of course, in Mario Maker, but I think in Mario Maker, his strength might mean he could break brick blocks while he was small, and maybe crush tough enemies with just one jump because of his heavy weight and his strength.
Yes, I suppose there is that to it. Yes, he could indeed do that. Of course, being a rather heavy chap he is, he'd most likely run slower than average.
That's right. Of course, in Super Mario 64 DS, he was known for having a slow run and a low jump. And those two things, those two reasons, are why he's in C tier. Because, you know, if you can't run fast, you can't do speedrun courses. And if you can't jump high, then again, just like with Toad, some courses may be just uncompletable by Wario.
Exactly. So Wario there in C tier for these characters had, or if they were added to, they might be in the future, who knows?
Exactly, if they were available and playable in Mario Maker 2.
And playable and have their characteristics, how they are doing. Well, those two there in C tier.
That's right, so let's move up now, Fadils, to B tier. Okay, so the characters in B tier are not necessarily bad, they're just fairly average, not as good as the others, etc. and so forth. At the bottom of B tier, then, we have Princess Rosalina.
Yes, now, Rosalina. Now, just imagine, we all know she does this little twirl thing when she's up in the air, so if she jumps, she could possibly use that to help her to get to the next part of the course.
Well, that's right. So, of course, in Super Mario 3D World, she had her Luma, who enabled her to do a mid-air twirl to, you know, perhaps get some extra height, perhaps continue her jump on for a little bit, could be used to bail you out of trouble sometimes. That was a rather handy skill, and I found it quite useful many times. She was one of the best characters in that game, so that could certainly translate over into Super Mario Maker. However, let's have a look at her downsides. She also runs slower than the other characters, which is a bit of a downer for Mario Maker 2. If things are coming at you fast, you need to be able to run out of the way. And also, while she has a power-up, for example, a fire flower, etc. and so forth, she loses that spin attack. That's quite a major negative, you know.
Well, yes, that is, yes, indeed. She loses her spin attack in that case, so that might not be as good as perhaps we first thought.
Some courses, of course, force you to use the fire flower and other power-ups, so while she had those, she would not be able to spin. She'd basically just be a slower version of Mario, which is really not that good. But certainly, where she had the ability to spin, that'd be useful for her, and I think that's why she's got a position in B tier there. So let's move on now. Moving up in B tier here, we come to the next character, and it's Mario himself, right squarely in the middle there.
Yes, indeed. Now, just because it's Mario doesn't mean to say he gets on the top tier.
No.
It's Super Mario Maker.
Well, that's right.
Yes, indeed, because Mario, well, we all know he sort of normally runs and normally jumps, because that's what Mario does, you see.
That's right, his run is normal, his jump is normal, he has no really outstanding strengths or weaknesses. So, because he has no weaknesses, that's why he's above Rosalina, Wario and Toad with their slow run and low jumps, etc. and so forth. He's basically ready to take on any course, anywhere, but he doesn't have anything at all that makes him stand out and say, yes, I want to play as this character above perhaps a character who has a better jump, etc. and so forth.
Yes, he's just sort of in the middle of the road, as it were. He just does his stuff.
That's right, a reliable, solid choice, for sure.
Yes, indeed, yes, it would be a reliable choice, yes.
Well, of course he is. He's Mario, after all.
He's Mario, yes.
He's the most famous character. So let's move on, Vanales. In B tier, we come next to the top of B tier, and we have Waluigi.
Yes, now, Waluigi, you might say, well, why Waluigi? Well, it's assumed, or we assume, that he would have the same effects as the weird mushroom, being a rather lanky chap that he is.
That's exactly right. So, of course, in the original Mario Maker, you had the weird mushroom, made you look all tall and lanky, just like Waluigi, and the effects of that were that you were able to rather usefully jump one block higher than normal with the effects of the weird mushroom.
Yes, indeed, which we presume that this character would have.
That's right.
If he was playable like that, and therefore would put him in a rather good position, hence he's at the top of B tier.
That's right, but unfortunately, of course, the weird mushroom comes with a couple of downsides as well. Firstly, that slippy, slidey run makes it hard for him to stop, so you better be careful near edges, etc. and so forth, or spikes, that you don't accidentally go careening into those. That could hurt.
Yes, most certainly, and of course ice as well would be very dangerous for him.
Yes, even worse on ice, certainly. And also, unlike Waluigi, assuming the weird mushroom would be his characteristic, would not have those slow, floaty falls. So, he just sort of plummets down, so you have to be careful with him. So, yes, I certainly think he has that advantage over Mario. He can jump higher, and again, Mario Maker is all about jumping, but you've just got to watch out for those downsides.
Yes, indeed, yes, so he's at the top of B there.
That's right, we've covered C tier, we've covered B tier, and now we're moving on to A tier. So who's at the bottom of A tier, Bertie?
Well, A tier, I'm sure you're all wondering, well, we've put Yoshi here at the bottom of A tier.
Yes.
And why? Because, of course, one of the things he has is that flutter jump, where you hold the button so he floats in the air. So when he's jumping over big sort of gaps in Mario Maker 2, that would be very useful.
That's right. Now, the question is, would Yoshi be able to eat enemies? I don't think so, because if you play as Yoshi, you'd find Yoshi in Super Mario World, and then you'd be Yoshi riding Yoshi. That could get confusing. So
yes.
We're going to leave out the eating enemies bit, but certainly he would have that flutter jump, which he has in many Mario games, and that certainly is a useful ability that, as Bertie says, enables you to clear pits, spikes, etc. and so forth, and can come in handy. And to be honest, other than that, he has no real weaknesses. He doesn't have a sort of a slow run, he doesn't have a slippy slidey run, he doesn't have a low jump, he just has the flutter jump in his favour, so he's a straight upgrade from Mario.
Yes, indeed, yes. So there we are. He's A tier, bottom of A tier, we think.
That's right. Who is in the middle of A tier then? We come next, of course, to who?
Middle of A tier, we have put in here Luigi.
Luigi, number one.
Now why? Because, of course, Luigi can jump rather high, and that's extremely important in Super Mario Maker 2.
Yes.
Well, any Super Mario Maker.
Yes, and perhaps people are saying, well, Waluigi can jump higher, so why is Luigi higher? Well, Luigi's higher because in some Mario games, he kicks his legs while he's jumping, which gives him a nice, slow, floaty fall, and a controlled descent, so, you can estimate where he's going to fall and position him better, and that is why he's above Waluigi. Unfortunately, he also has the slippy, slidey run, so it's quite hard for him to stop.
Yes, that's a downside, once again, for, edges there, and of course, ice, etc. so forth.
Ice, pits, enemies, that's right,
Yes.
spikes, the whole bit, but certainly, I think with that slow, floaty fall, he just edges out Yoshi, although it's very close between Yoshi and Luigi, but I think Luigi wins out because he has not only the floaty fall, but also the one block advantage when he's jumping. That's
Yes, indeed.
Quite useful to get the extra height there.
Yes, indeed. So who's, therefore, is at the top of the A tier?
The top of A tier, that's a good question. We put in at the top of A tier Princess Peach. Okay?
Yes.
Now, Princess Peach, of course, has a very useful ability indeed, first introduced in Super Mario Bros. 2, which is her float jump. She can sort of hold down that jump button to hover in midair briefly, and that is incredibly useful.
Yes, that would be, wouldn't it? You could sort of float down when you're going from one place that you can't see where you're going, from left to right.
Yes.
That would be rather useful, because you could float down and sort of pause almost, and see what's perhaps underneath it.
Well, indeed. So, as Bertie says there, if you just jumped off a high ledge and you don't know what's down there, and you say, oh no, there's there's a pit approaching, or there's a spike, I need to adjust my position, you can just hold down that button and she'll pause in midair and actually float there, allowing you to reposition her and land safely. It comes in so handy, I can't tell you how many times that saved me while playing as Princess Peach, so she's really useful like that, and well deserving of her position, I think, at the top of A tier, even though she doesn't have the high jump. Her downside, of course, is that in some games she runs a bit slower than average, so you'd have to take that into account. Perhaps not the best choice for speedrunning, but certainly for general, playing of Mario Maker, she's top A tier for us.
Oh, most certainly, yes.
Yes, so that we've covered Fadils here, C, B, and A tier. Now it's time to come to the cream of the crop, the best of the bunch. S tier. This is the best tier of all, after all. And who is at the bottom, quotes, of S tier, Bertie?
So, yes, the bottom of S tier, we have put in this place Daisy.
Hi, I'm Daisy.
Yes, hi, I'm Daisy. And why?
Why, I say,
yes.
Because in Super Mario Run, which was the first Mario side-scroller where you could actually play as Daisy, she can double jump. I mean, how overpowered is that?
Exactly. Now,
double jump.
A double jump is going to be very handy if you were in Super Mario Maker.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Very much handy indeed.
Again, not only can she do that mid-air pause thing when falling, just do an extra jump in mid-air to get herself out of trouble, but also she can jump much higher than Luigi and Waluigi because she gets an extra jump in mid-air. It's completely overpowered. I mean, really, compared to other characters like Mario, she's just so much better. As well, she doesn't really have any weaknesses because I suppose she's Daisy. She's overpowered by nature. I don't know. She slapped Bowser away one time, so she's quite a tough character. So yes, indeed, well deserving of her spot there in the S tier with her double jump. And last but not least, Fadils, it's the king of all the Mario characters, the top of the tier list, the best of the S tier. Who is it, old boy? Who is this king of Mario?
Yes, I wonder if they can guess this one with the one that's missing.
Yes.
Now, who is it? It is, of course, Bowser.
Bowser! Yes, indeed. That's right, Bowser himself. And before you say you can't play as Bowser, actually there is one Mario game where you can play as Bowser in a side-scrolling environment. And that is, of course, in Paper Mario, the Thousand-Year Door, in the intermission sequences. Now, in those sequences, he can breathe fire to defeat enemies and burn objects. That is ridiculously overpowered. He doesn't even need a fire flower. He just goes roar and breathes out the fire. And also, he can eat meat to grow to huge sizes and eventually crush everything in his path. This is the king of Mario characters, if there ever was one. So Bowser really overpowered there. If he had some meat, he'd be absolutely cooking. He could get through any stage with relative ease. Of course, he does have a couple of downsides, and what are they, old chap?
Yes, indeed, yes. Well, yes, the downsides, of course, those qualities you've just mentioned, very useful for smashing things out the way, a lot of which are in Super Mario Maker.
Yes.
But what is downside? So, running slower. Of course, being a big lump he is, he can run rather slower.
Run slowly and, of course, jump quite low compared to other characters. But when you're huge and smashing through everything, you don't care about jumps. You just want to win.
Yeah.
Now, the honourable mention here for a character that is even more powerful than Bowser, arguably, is, of course, Nabbit, who was just plain invincible. But we can't really count him because he was more of a beginner's character. So, not really fair to include him in the tier list here. But there we are, Fadils. That's our tier list of Mario playable characters in Super Mario Maker 2. If they had their abilities, we go from C tier up to S tier. Toad, Wario, Rosalina, Mario, then Waluigi, then in A tier, Yoshi, Luigi, Peach, and finally Daisy and Bowser in S tier. What do you think of our tier list? Do you agree, disagree? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section, I say.
Yes, most certainly do, yes, because I think it's very possible that they could add perhaps character-specific qualities to the game. Who knows? They could well do this.
It could be a DLC thing. Certainly, it's quite exciting to theorise what they could do, and I think this could really enhance the game if they added those elements to it. You just have to be careful that some courses would not be completable by the weaker characters. But yes, indeed, this has been GameChap and Bertie, Fadils, bringing you a Super Mario Maker 2 tier list. Thank you kindly for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you in the next exciting video. Until then...